Hey there! Did you know we have a Patreon? You can get early access to all of our content with any amount pledge. Consider it and spread the word. Now on to the show. Spoiler warning. This podcast will spoil elements from both the gameplay and story for Undertale. Hello there, welcome to Why We Love, a podcast where we talk about a specific game and we just talk about how much we love it and what parts of it we love, what characters we love, and just anything that we really remember about the game. With me, I have some fans of Undertale, which is the game that we're going to be talking about in this podcast. By the way, my name is Gary Casillas. I don't know why I didn't say that first. But we may have Jessica and Shirley. Say hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
And yeah, we're just gonna talk about the game. I don't know where to start specifically because I think that there's just so many things to talk about the game. But I think that we can start right at the beginning. You were mentioning Shirley before the podcast that that introduction to the game where you meet Flowey, right? Is just so it kind of sets the bar for the rest of the game. You kind of understand exactly what you're getting into. A game that seems like is very, I guess you could say, not childish, but innocent. That's the word. Like it's innocent in some way, and then it quickly becomes nightmarish kind of thing, right? And Flowey represents that perfectly. And yeah, I feel like it's just at the start of the game. It's a really great introduction to what you can expect from the game and the fact that it's so quirky, as you said before, Jessica. And I don't know, like we enter into the many things that are amazing about the game. I would like to know which character, or apart from, for example, and yeah, including Flowey, what's your favorite character of the whole game? Let's start with you, Shirley.
Well, that's a very difficult question.
It could be characters too. Like you could say many characters, but
I mean, if I had to choose one character and be like, that is my favorite character, it would have to be Undyne.
okay, yeah,
I love Undyne for so many reasons, but the most, I think that the biggest reason of them all is because when you encounter Undyne in the genocide route and you start fighting with Undyne the Undying,
yeah,
and the caption says the heroine appears.
yeah,
That's when you understand. That's the moment when the game is telling you you're not the hero of this game.
yeah.
Undyne is. She represents everything that is heroic within the world of Undertale. You are nothing here. So for me, that moment, and not just her as a character, but that moment
Yeah.
is so powerful, right? And also I love the fact that Undertale has so many queer characters, and Undyne is just one of those characters, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. She's also the if you're gonna think about archetypes in characters, well, she's your typical warrior or like masculine female archetype. But
Sure.
I don't know. What I love everything that she represents, and just it's the moment as well. It's like that moment. It's incredible, and the music. The music makes it so much better.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna talk about the music. Is coming because that's a very good part of the game. But Jessica, same question. Like, what was your favorite character?
So I think I have to agree with Shirley, and Undyne would probably be my favorite character if I had to choose. Because the thing uh, that happens with Undertale is that it's not just the a single character, but how all these characters interact with each other that makes them so special. At least that's how I see it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think Undyne would be my favorite character.
yeah, I agree. Undyne is an awesome character. I will also say because as I asked the question, but yeah, it's really difficult to answer definitely because there are so many different characters that are really cool. I personally really like Asgore, and I'm gonna talk about him later on because I
Nice.
there's a specific moment where and it's something that's never happened to me before in a game where I understood through the gameplay just how uh, decided, but at the same time sad he was about the whole thing that was going on, right? Uh,
That's true.
and it's just so heartbreaking at the moment that while he doesn't really appear that much in the game, I think that when he
Mhm.
does appear, he makes a lot of impact, and you're always like, I think
You always hear about him all the time from the other characters.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, and yeah, like they make you think that he's gonna be like this big monster, right? It's gonna destroy you. He doesn't care. He doesn't have really that much of emotions or whatever. And when you get to him, he's literally. I'm not quite sure what he's doing, but I think he's just like in a garden, just like watching plants or something, flowers, and like when you get there, he's like, "Oh, okay," like okay, so I guess I'm gonna have to do this, and he doesn't. It's clear that he doesn't want to, and anyway, I'm just gonna say it because I just want to say it. But my favorite moment from this game, and the moment that I felt that the game became just more than just any other game, became, as I said, a masterpiece because I feel like this game belongs in a museum, to be super honest. Uh, so throughout the game, right, you've been uh, taught how to play the game, right? Like you've taught how the battle system works. You know that you can talk to them, you can fight them, and you can use items and all the stuff. And eventually, if you're playing through if you're a good person, I guess you could say in some way, you're gonna try not to kill the enemies. Uh, at least once you know that you can, right? Once you know that you can spare them. So basically, the mechanic of the game becomes you talk to them or you do something for them, or yeah, just talk to them in some way. So eventually, you can just spare them, right? You go for the mercy button. When you go fight Asgore, he's very clear that he has to do this. There's no other way than this, right? And when you literally start the fight, he breaks the mercy button. That's exactly what happens. And when I saw that, it literally because the game is breaking the fourth wall, right? It's basically deciding to tell you this mechanic that you were basically basing everything on, and the fact that you've always tried to be the good guy. This time you can't be. You have to fight this person, and you know that he doesn't want to fight you. He doesn't want to kill you, but he must for the sake of the monsters, right? And we're gonna talk about more about the whole story about the monsters and the humans and how humans are kind of the monsters really, and the monsters are not really what you think, right? That they are. Uh, but that moment it literally changed how I saw the game. I know it's kind of at the end, and it's not like the game hadn't played with those buttons before, right? But it just felt so. It just fits so well with the character. and with the situation that was happening at the moment, and the music that plays is just amazing too at that point. I really love that song. Uh, I don't know, it's just amazing. Like I've never felt so invested and at the same time so against fighting the person that I'm fighting, right? Because even with Undyne, right? Like she's if you're playing in the Pacific route in some way, right? She does seem like a worthy foe, right? Like you want to be able to go to the toe against her because she's basically trying to kill you through most of that section. But with Asgore, I never felt that moment where I wanted to kill him. He always felt like he didn't want to do this, but he's the king of the monsters. He basically needs to do this. He's already done it before, and it's so sad. Anyway, it's just like that moment changed my perception of the game. At least for the fact that the fact that the characters were felt alive, and I feel like that's something that this game did that is amazing. Is the fact that every single character, they all are not just one note. Like even for example, yeah, you mentioned that she's kind of an archetype, but she's an archetype for most of the game, right? But when you kind of start peeling up the layers of she's this brave warrior or whatever, you kind of understand why she became or why she's trying to be that strong all the time, right? And the fact that she does want a friend or a companion in some way, and but she doesn't really want to admit it. And I don't know, it's just really cool the fact that these characters seem so real without having to actually be realistic. And I think that's yeah, like when you are able to do that in a game, I feel like you won. Like you won the game of making games. And I feel like this game did that. And Asgore was like the one that did that for me.
So yeah, my boyfriend has been listening to the conversation in the back, and he's very into the game as well, and so he just had to go and play the game just right now.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
like Undertale, like the characterization in Undertale is absolutely exquisite, and it has to be, right? Because the graphics are so, I mean, they're whimsical and they're fun, but they're also really plain, right?
Yeah.
So the characterization needs to be on point. And I personally knew that like Toby Fox did such a great job at characterizing his characters. When when you're playing through the pacifist route, and after you meet Alphys, she keeps updating her Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh my god, I thought that was so annoying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I thought that Alphys was the most annoying character in the history of characters, and she just kept updating her social media, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? I was terribly annoyed. But at the end of the pacifist route, when you're fighting Asriel, no, or you're fighting Flowey, I don't remember which one of the two, but suddenly like all your friends disappear, right? They kind of vanish.
Yeah.
And the game tells you, like, there's like this monologue, and the game at the end, the game tells you maybe there's something that still can be saved, and then the music starts playing and the name of your friends appear on screen. I thought that I had to choose who had to be saved. Like,
Okay.
the way that I read that moment was like, oh my god, the game is telling me that I have to choose, that I can save something.
Yeah.
And that's something I need to choose right now. And when I saw this, I started sobbing. Like, I regret not recording that moment, because it would have been one of the greatest moments ever. Because I was like, I was sitting in front of the monitor, my computer, and I was like, you can't make me choose. I can't choose. And I just started crying. And at that moment, like, I was playing Undertale with my friend, right? He was playing it, I was watching technically, but I just started sobbing, and he looks at me with this face. He had played the game already, and he looks at me like, dude, just play the game. And I'm like, you mean I don't have to choose? Are you sure? He's like, dude, play the game. But at that moment, it was clear to me, like, these characters, even Alphys, who I thought was completely annoying, like, even her, the idea of having to choose just one of them, for me, was heartbreaking. Was like, I don't want to choose. I have a relationship with these characters. Each one of these characters is so different, and they're amazing. And I don't have the heart. Why would you do this to me, Toby Fox? But then he didn't, and I kept playing, and everything was okay.
Yeah.
But then I played the genocide route, and well, whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because if you feel bad at that point, I imagine the genocide route is like the worst thing ever.
It was a truly traumatizing experience, but it's part of the point of the game, right?
Yeah.
Part of the point of the game is make you fall in love with these characters, and then because the game expects you to want to know what the genocide route is, so to teach you a lesson, to be like, you just want to know what happens. You just want to explore, what in literature is called the hypertext. You just want to know what there is. You don't really care about these characters.
Exactly.
And it's part of the brilliance of the game, really.
I mean, there are many things that are brilliant about the game. Yeah, definitely. As you said, like the genocide route was just horrible, and of course it's meant to be that way, as you said. And something I really love about that is that even though it is horrible for the good characters, right? Like Flowey, for example, you learn so much about him through that genocide route, and you learn the fact that he has done this before. And Flowey is supposed to be kind of you, right? He's supposed to have the same ability that you have of playing the game, and he has gone through every single iteration of the game. He has played the game the same times that you have, or even more times. And he even says so. He says that he has seen them all die. He has seen them all live, and doesn't really change. He goes back to the beginning, and it's just so interesting how even that type of fourth wall breaking character has had so much humanity in him. And again, humanity in the sense that you understood that somebody with that power and living in that world will be just so just crazy. Flowey was literally that, and it's just, I think it's just the perfect combination of, as you said, really good characterization of course the characters, and at the same time respect for the world that Toby created. Like the rules that he put in place, they all make sense. Like, for example, you mentioned right the Undying fight, and something I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention at the moment is that the reason why that fight is so amazing, and the reason why that fight even happens and is it's very difficult, because the game in general is kind of difficult, right? But is the fact that throughout the game they tell you that the reason why humans are so powerful, right, is that they have determination, right? And they have this soul power that makes them much more powerful than monsters. And the reason why Undyne becomes so powerful is because her willpower is so big and so, and that she's basically so amazing that she basically melts with determination. She's like the first monster that you encounter that can do that through her own will, and that speaks so much about that character in particular. But again, I love the fact that it's not just like a Deus Ex Machina type of thing. It's through the story of the game and the fact that the characters understand the rules of this world, right? And that's like when you can do that, when you can make the world inform the characters and the characters still feel in some way, as you said, like you didn't want to kill any one of them because they just fell alive. You don't didn't want to see them, any of them, die. Like I always remember when you kill Toriel at the beginning, that she's not sad. I mean, she's, yeah, of course she's sad, but at the same time she's like, well, I guess you don't need me. You can defend yourself. It's just so heartbreaking. Like it just everything that happens with that. Anyway, is I love the fact that the world and the rules, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more eventually, because I do want to talk about the music for a moment. But yeah, I love how Toby, yeah, just made the world and created characters that live in this world, and yeah, you understand how this game functions, and the fact that the characters feel like they're part of that world, and that's perfect. That's just amazing. So I want to talk about the music for a bit, because I know it's a topic that everybody kind of goes back to because it's just so well done. What I do want to say about the music, and I want to know, right, what tracks you guys really love, or which ones are your favorite tracks. But something that I learned about the game that I feel is just, again, amazing, and just some of these things that I would have never thought of doing as a game developer, and I don't think many game developers do this or think about this. But the fact that, so there are like the songs, right? A lot of them, depending on the situation and on the place that you're going through, can actually be the same track, just played in a slower tempo. So, for example, the music, if you go to the genocide route, you know that when you start killing the monsters, like if you kill the monsters in the first town, right? The music becomes really like weird, like just really slow and whatever. So that's the same song played in a very slow tempo, or a very slow pitch, right? And even that changes the whole concept of of the moment. You understand that something really bad is going on, and I know that it also works the other way around. Like there are certain songs of certain places that are played like in a normal pitch, and then when they are played in a faster pitch, or a faster tempo, uh, they become the boss fight theme song for a specific boss fight, and that is something that design wise is just bonkers, because to be able to not only create the songs that can do that, and you can just play them however you want and they fit perfectly, but the fact that you thought about that, and you thought about giving each character basically a connection with the world even more than they already have. That idea of doing that is just amazing to me. And yeah, like all the kudos in the world to Toby for doing that, and the fact that he did it on basically his own is
Yeah.
like, I have no clue how that can happen, to be honest. It's just, yeah, it's just you're dealing with a genius, right? It's just amazing. But anyway, I want to hear what you guys think about the music. Of course, the music is amazing about the game, as you said. What was your favorite track, Shirley?
Well, well, I love the entire soundtrack, but there's a special place in my heart for Megalovania, of course,
Yeah.
which is the Sans boss fight theme,
Yep.
and for the Undying, the Undying. I'm not really sure what the actual title of the song is. Maybe I'm thinking about the title of a remix, because I also listen to a lot of remixes. But
Yeah.
like the music that plays when you're fighting Undying, the Undying. But yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you were saying about music design.
Yeah.
Music is one of the most like when it comes to creating emotional connections with a video game, music is probably one of the most important aspects of that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even today, I'm 31 years old, and the games that I feel most connected to are games that the first thing that I remember about them is their music.
Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, Ocarina of Time, even the Game Boy Advance. I mean, the Game Boy Color Pokemon games.
Yeah.
The music is such a strong factor in a game, and Undertale has such a great soundtrack.
Amazing.
I could listen to the thing all day,
yeah,
and just not get bored, because it's filled with so much energy and so much passion. And also there's a lot of amazing animations and like fan fiction things made out there using the music, and those are really fun to watch. There's some of them of Undyne's fight that are really, really good. There's also some people have written lyrics for the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So when a game is capable of having this kind of reaction in people, I mean, in my opinion, Undertale is just one of the best games ever made. Probably one of the most important games created in the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I agree.
Jessica, same question. What was your favorite track?
Well, once again I had many favorites. At the beginning it was Megalovania, but as I played more of the game, I think that the one that I really enjoyed the most was I would say Hopes and Dreams. And I don't know if it was the same song, but it sounded similar, or maybe it was an arrangement of the song. But the song that played during the final battle with Asriel,
Okay.
that one was really, really good too.
Yeah, adding a little bit to what I said before, you were saying about the music design. Actually, like to me, because when you're of course doing a game, right? You of course have to think about what music to put in certain places or certain moments, and I think that what's genius about Undertale to me is that not only were they able to think or Toby was able to compose those songs, right, that are just amazing and really catchy, but the fact that he was able to reuse them in so many ways, as I said before, right, and that way he didn't have to make like a song for every single place that you go to, and the fact that he by just changing the tempo, it seems like a new song, like a completely new song. That's the part that I say that is just how did he do that? It's just weird that he can think that far ahead, and yeah, at the same time he basically uh, save space in the content of the game, which for anybody that makes games, you know that saving space is one of the priorities, like something really important. And the fact that he could do that without losing quality and without losing anything is just super awesome. In my case, my favorite track is actually none of those. I love those songs, but for some reason, I gravitate towards. I only forget his specific name. I'm tempted to say Megatron, but it's not Megatron. Like the robot guy, what's his name?
Yeah, Megatron.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like that's what it was in my mind, but I just thought it was kind of a little bit too on the nose. But Megatron, the song that plays when he or she becomes, well, I guess, does he have a gender? I guess you could say a she. She becomes like the humanoid version, like the last version. The song that plays at that point, I'm not sure how it's called. That song is my favorite from the game, because it's just so I don't know. It's like it fits the character perfectly. Like it's like pop. Like it's almost like a Michael Jackson type of song. And I don't know, I that's the song that I always kind of, from my playlist of the songs of Undertale, is the one that I play the most, because I don't know, it just seems so happy and like just I don't know, it's really cool to work with. So that's actually my favorite song from the whole plethora of amazing songs that the game uh, has, right? And yeah, again, there's so many things we can talk about the game. I don't like, we could literally go step by step and discussing the genocide route, the Pacific route. But again, I already mentioned my moment, the moment that I kind of understood that the game was amazing, and just one of the moments that I felt so like I understood that the game was way more than what it seemed. Of course, we talk about the characters, we talk about music, but is there something that
It's
you
also,
guys would like to highlight?
Well, I think that what this game does tremendously well is meta storytelling.
Yeah,
Like when you start playing the game, you have this idea of what the game's going to be, but then turns out it's something completely different. And the game has all these different layers, right? It has the different stories or different realities, if you will, that you can explore. But at the end of the day, it's like Undertale plays not in different segments of game time, right, that you put together,
yeah,
but rather like a spiral, because the game technically, or I mean, the game is programmed so that you can never truly erase what you did, right?
exactly. Yeah,
One of the points of the game is to teach you, right, that
yeah,
there are some decisions that you can never go back on.
yeah,
And because of that, no matter how many times you play Undertale, you are not starting completely fresh. You will never be able to do that.
exactly.
Therefore, the game is more like a spiral, like a downward spiral, where each gameplay is connected to each other, and it's in a way, it's a continuation of the last time you played,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't matter the order. It doesn't matter if you do genocide, pacifist, neutral, then neutral again, then neutral and genocide. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
So I think that that characteristic of this game is something that more games should do,
yeah,
because it doesn't just up the replay value of the game, but also it adds this dimension, right? This completely different dimension to the game that not many games out there explore.
no, yeah, I agree completely. Jessica, same question.
well, I wanted to comment that before moving on from music,
Yeah,
that one thing that I've noticed about Undertale in regards to the music is that it is one of those games where you know how usually you have these soundtracks in the games that you can only enjoy when someone takes it and remixes it and somehow makes it different and better.
yeah,
But well, with Undertale, I can listen to the original soundtrack and I can enjoy it as much as any remix that's been made for it. Like the music is genuinely good, and I think it's only happened to me with before with like maybe uh, three more games apart from it in my entire life as a gamer. So yeah, I think that is something that I think we've discussed it enough. But yeah, he did very well with the music there. Um, something about else that I really find that is very exceptional about Undertale is how it is so character oriented, and I know it's part of the whole purpose of making you care for these characters so that you can feel responsible for every decision that you make
yeah,
in the game. But I really love the characters per se, their personalities and how they are so diverse. They are it's a small world, the world of Undertale, but each character is can be very very unique and show, and somehow I think every player can find a character in the game who they can identify with, and that's very special. And on the same note, um, the game, although I initially thought that it was going to be an easy in terms of difficulty
Yeah,
of gameplay difficulty, it was actually very difficult. I
it
think
is
that's
very
why it took
difficult. Yeah,
me, yeah, I think it took me many months because I would often give up on these fights and I had to
yeah,
take a break, like taking breaks and so on. Uh, but I love how each battle is not just yet another battle. Is Each battle is unique. The dynamic with every enemy is different,
yeah,
and so they are very well thought out, and it gives you this feeling throughout the whole experience that every character, even every enemy, is there for a reason. It has a purpose,
yeah, yeah.
which yeah, which makes things more real and personal for you as a player. Everything adds to the experience. It's hard to pinpoint one aspect of the game that makes it brilliant. But yeah, I think those are some of the things that I admire the most about it.
While you were saying that, I got chills because I remember things about the game, and there are two moments
Yeah.
particularly that to me, like, again, it's just what you were saying, that the fact that the fights themselves are, well, let's start with what Shirley said. Shirley, you were talking about, right, the fact that each time you play the game, if you try to start the game from scratch, the game remembers what you did. And
Hmm.
I remember that my girlfriend played the game and she accidentally killed Torio, and she was like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. So she went back to the safe, and I was like, do I tell her? Do I tell her what's gonna happen? Uh,
Oops.
so when she went back and she tried not to kill her, Flowey appears, and he says,
Hmm.
"I know what you did."
This same thing happened to my boyfriend, but he found a way to delete the save
Oh,
files.
yeah,
I mean
yeah,
the data, and yeah, he was able to undo it. But yeah,
but
it's
yeah, but
really
that's cheating.
impressive.
That's cheating.
Yeah, and it's very impressive what he did there. The game designer. That's really amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I remember that her face when it happened. I told I actually told her from the beginning, like, this is a game that you have to play once, and you have to be clear about what you're doing. And when that happened, she was like, "Wait, is he referring to what I did before?" I was like, "I guess." And it just literally changed her perspective about how the game worked, and it's just what that can do. Right, I'm gonna talk a little bit about that in a few moments. But what you were talking about, the fights, Jessica, and the fact that
Yeah.
each fight feels different and feels connected to the enemy that you're fighting. Something that I love about this game is that, again, the fights are not just meant to be fights. Even the personalities of the enemies and what you're doing by talking to them changes and affects how the fight goes, to the point
Yeah.
where even the enemies can help you. Like, as like there are certain things that you can do that enemies actually give you health or life back, right? And it's basically, if you kind of yeah, give them something really that they enjoy, and they don't want to hurt you, they want to help you out. And that's
They,
just
I,
something so
yeah.
different from what happens usually in RPGs.
Yeah, it's exactly that. That's actually pretty much what I was going for. I
Yeah,
like you play all these RPGs where battles are a part of the gameplay, but they are often so disconnected from the rest of the experience.
exactly. Yeah,
Like they are just there to add challenge to the player. But in here, everything, every element of the game's design is so connected, and I think that is a major achievement in game design. In game design, I think not many people can boast about being able to do that so well.
Yeah, and not many people actually go that distance. That's something that I actually because most game designers, well, I shouldn't say most, but many game designers, kind of like they basically go with the idea that this is just a game. Nobody's gonna really care that everything fits. And
Hmm.
I love the fact that Undertale didn't do that. Like every single aspect of the game, of the be it the fights, be it the interactions in the world, be it what you do, how you save, where you save, who you save. Anyway, just all those things, they are all connected to the game in some way. And yeah, it's just like to do that. It's obvious that this like Toby really loved the idea of what he was doing, and he wanted to make it the best possible. But something I wanted to mention apart from that is the fact that I will always remember that in the tutorial fight, if you go through the motions of not trying to really well, no, I guess I should say in this way. If she starts attacking you, right, and then you get to like 1 HP, and after that, because you will expect her to just destroy you, but for some reason, she and I don't remember if it happens exactly at that point, but I know that it happens. She throws fire at you, right? Like these fire things, and at that point she starts throwing fire to another place that will never hit you. In fact, I think that if you try to make her hit you, the fire goes another place, and it's because she doesn't want to hurt you. She doesn't want to do that to you. And again, it's just how amazingly well this the fighting system and the character collide in that sense. uh, like when I saw that happen, it was like, oh wow! Like even though it's abstract, I understand what's going on. I understand why she's doing what she's doing, and that's just amazing, at least to me. Uh, but yeah, the only thing I can say apart from that, and after this, I think we can kind of get to the last thoughts of like the whole game. And again, it's kind of sad because there are so many specific things we can talk about, just specific characters like Papyrus and as you said, Alphys, like everything that happens with her, and the fact that she's a little bit more connected with everything that's happening and with Flowey and all that stuff, right? Lore wise. But something I wanted to say is that I feel like the game, as I said, it feels alive. And not only are the characters alive, but the world itself, even the common shopkeepers and the people that are or the different monsters or creatures that are living in different towns, they are actually living in those towns and they can talk about things that are going on or whatever. But for example, the best way to prove that and what changes this from other RPGs is the fact that if you go to the genocide route and you start attacking every single monster that you find and kill them, you're actually killing the creatures that live in the town. So when you go to the town again, there's not gonna be anybody because you killed them through battle. You actually fought them. For example, the first time that I found that out was that when I was going through genocide route, I kept encountering these slimes or these like little flan thingies or whatever, and yeah, I just killed them, right? And there was this family of slimes that was in the first town that you could talk to, and when I killed those slimes, when I went back to the town, they weren't there because you destroyed them, you killed them. And again, that's the level of design and thinking that not many people do, but it's so powerful and makes this game amazing to me. And
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think
one example. So yeah,
I think that's what happens when you like purposely decide not to disconnect gameplay from narrative.
exactly.
Because one of the things that Undertale is extremely successful at is it using gameplay and game mechanics in the favor of narrative. So that when the narrative changes according on how you choose to play the game,
Exactly.
rather than making the player go on a certain route in order to show them a story. So if you choose to not kill anyone, then you get the pacifist route. If you choose to kill everyone, you get the genocide route. If you choose to do a mix of both, then you get the neutral route. But at the end of the day, the gameplay is the one that decides what the narrative is going to be.
Exactly.
And I think that's why it's so successful. So that, for example, when you're playing through the genocide route and you encounter Sans and Papyrus, you don't have to play through all the puzzles.
Exactly. Yep.
Because Flowey did all the puzzles for you so that you could, get to your goal faster. But also in the genocide route, it doesn't make sense for you to do all those puzzles.
Exactly.
Because it would be too, it would create this narrative dissonance within the game that it just doesn't go with either the gameplay or what the game is trying to tell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to game design, Undertale, like every single person ever interested in designing a game should play Undertale.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this game.
Yeah. Again, I just feel like this game always asks the question, how does this action affect the world? And just doing that, and the fact that it does affect the world in some way, is just something that not many games do, but they should, because that's what makes a mediocre game, like, that's how you can see, or you can distinguish between a mediocre game and a really great game, right? And that's why Undertale to me is a really great game, because it does that, and that's difficult, because for anyone that has done game design before, or has tried to do it, you know that trying to fit everything into the narrative can sometimes be a really, like, it's a difficult thing. You have to be really clear about the world you're creating.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to add something that doesn't really quite fit, but it's really fun. So you have to basically decide: do I like sacrifice this for this, or what do you cut from the game? And the fact that this game was able to do that without destroying that sense of everything fits and everything is kind of narrative based and affects the world in some way, that's what makes this game a masterpiece. And yeah, as you said, this is a game that every game designer has to play, if not only for that fact, for the fact that at this point in the 2010s, a game with those with that art style and that's this minimalistic approach is able to be so beloved and so uh, larger than what it is, because of how the narrative works and the fact that those little things that for many designers are inconsequential and don't really affect the game are precisely what makes this game shine. And yeah, I this is a game that should be taught to game designers. Like, you have to play the game and understand what's going on with it, because it's just amazing in that sense. So I agree with you completely. Uh, Again, there's so many things that I wish we could talk about, but we'll be here like for 5 hours. We go for a specific character. So yeah, so last thoughts that you guys would like to leave the podcast on, something that you would like to point out that we haven't already. Jessica, always going with Shirley first. So Jessica, do you have something like that?
Oh well, there's so much to say. Like
Yeah,
you
I
said,
know.
we could be talking for hours.
Yeah.
Because this game is just a masterpiece, really in many ways. So, I would say this is the type of game that it just changes you, and it becomes a part of like the way you think and the way you react to things. Like right now, the whole theme of determination,
Yeah.
I feel so identified with. And every time that I am struggling with something, I'm confronting a challenge in life, or I have to do something that's very difficult for me. Uh, I always think about Undertale and all the lessons that it teaches you about life and your decisions and what it's like. Yeah, to you know, and how important it is to stay determined. And yeah, I guess it just became like like my adult version of a cartoon that you remember throughout all your formative years, and
Yeah.
you always think about what you learned from that cartoon and the characters. So yeah, I guess it's taken that role in my life, and I think it's done the same thing for many people.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's interesting that you say it's almost like a cartoon. Yeah, it is kind of like that. Yeah, definitely. Shirley, same question.
Well, I can absolutely relate to how Jessica feels because I feel the same way. Like for me, Undertale is that go-to place wherever I find myself not, discouraged, or I feel like something suddenly became too hard, or that's too difficult. I'm like, no, Shirley, be
Stay
filled with
determined.
be filled with determination. I actually got that tattooed on my forearm.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a tattoo that says your heart is filled with determination, and the heart, the word. I mean, there's no word heart tattooed. It's just like the actual icon of the heart
Oh,
that
nice,
appears in
nice.
Undertale,
Yeah.
and the determination. The word is written in exact that same font. So that every time I'm struggling, I just have to look to my right, and there it is. It's like your heart is filled with determination. And whenever I read it, I'm reminded of that, that you should always keep pushing forward, and no matter, because like Jessica said, the game is hard. Like that game is really really hard,
Yeah.
but it the game invites you to keep trying and learn the patterns, and just get better at it, and you will eventually beat the bosses.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to what Jessica said. And yeah.
I think it in some way it's a parallel to how life is. Like you just have to keep learning the patterns and just trying, and until you master life in some way or another. So yeah,
So yeah, I and clearly I think that we also answered the question of who of us is the number one fan of Undertale. Shirley, you won.
yeah, definitely. I think we
So yeah, with that, again, I'm really sad that I have to finish it right now because we're just at the limit, literally, of the podcast, and there's so many things that we have to talk about that are just really cool about the game. But yeah, I agree with all that you have said, that you both have said in the podcast. Again, it's just an amazing game. I feel like it does. It is important that that it is recognized and that people play it because it's just, I don't know. It's like the first game that can only work. Well, it's not the first game that can only work as a game, which is what I'm gonna say, but it's one of those games that can only work for the medium of gaming, and it's just a really great example of how different this is from a movie or a book or whatever. And you just have to experience it. I think that everybody has to play the game, and we encourage you if you have if you're well oh, if you're here in the podcast and you haven't played the game, we kind of spoil many things for you, but not everything, to be honest, because there are so many things that we haven't talked about. But if you haven't played it or you haven't finished it, yeah, go and do it because it is worth it. Even if you finish just the normal route, the neutral route, you don't have to go through the pacifist or the genocide to actually enjoy the game. So just play it and see what happens.
and if you haven't really played the game or finished it, it's okay that you heard all of this, because either way, the experience is never the same for any single person. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, no, definitely, and yeah, and even in a weird way, not playing the game is one of the endings because if you go through
Yeah.
the whole the whole Sans, like the innocent route, and you meet Sans, uh, like he tells you like you don't have to keep playing. Like if you stop playing, we're gonna be alive, and we're gonna be okay. But if you keep playing, then you're gonna kill us all. And yeah, what will that accomplish? So even that, like even not playing the game is is in a way tied to the game, which is kind of ridiculous, but it speaks to how awesome the game was planned. So yeah, definitely try it out if you haven't, or yeah, just go through it again if you're hearing the podcast because maybe you missed something. I at least know that yeah, Toby, the guy that made the game, actually created or put certain like when you start any game, like there's like a random variable that determines uh, if certain events happen. And I think it's like a variable that goes from 1 to 100, and depending on what seed you get or what number you get, certain characters appear in certain places. So you might play the game like literally 100 times, and you haven't seen every single character and every piece of dialogue. So it's just amazing how many things there are, to be honest. So even if you have played it before, yeah, just play it again. And yeah, again, I think it's an amazing game. Toby did an amazing job. The other artist, I forget her name, but she also worked on the game. She did also amazing job with the Temis and all that. And yeah, again, I could keep singing praises about the game, but to be honest, yeah, it's just amazing. We will be here like 4 hours more if we keep going through every single specific awesome thing about the game. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you for being with us in this episode for Undertale, and thank you Jessica and Shirley for being with me in the podcast.
Thank you.
And yeah, again, I wish we could talk more about it. Maybe we'll even do a part
Maybe a
two
part
eventually.
two.
Yeah, yeah, because there are so many things that we left behind. But in general, I think we covered pretty much most of the things that make the game amazing, and that's perfect. So anyway, anything that you would like to plug, Shirley, like some events coming up?
No, but I would definitely like to invite everyone to look up Story Code Puerto Rico. If you're into transmedia storytelling or virtual reality or augmented reality, we are an organization that kind of sets up meetups. We're working actually on organizing our next meetup. Hopefully, we want to do something that involves video game fans and video game designers. So hopefully that will be out soon enough. Anyways, you can follow us on Facebook and on meetups.com. So yeah, look us up. Story Code Puerto Rico.
Awesome. And Jessica, same. Do you want to plug something?
So, to everyone who's interested in game development out there, I want to extend an invitation to join our official Discord server. I guess I share the link with you later
Yeah.
so that you can, of course. So we are pretty much we had this Facebook group, and we have started to move all the activity to this Discord server now, and it has been very active. And because Discord happens to be a little more accessible to everyone in general, we are having people from outside of Puerto Rico join in as well, professionals from the industry, and we are beginning to exchange and try many different things now. So I think it's going to be big, and we may well start moving the game dev community to another level now. So definitely, if you want to be a part of that, I would really like you to be on the Discord channel. Discord server. I keep confusing those.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'll put it in the description. Yeah, it will be there, so no worries.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.